12. Jill. I split my face down the middle with red grease paint, rubbed liquid latex between my fingers, and pressed wounds into my skin. Blackened my eyes. I looked in the mirror, and a dead girl stared back. I smiled, and she smiled too. I asked Mom if she could drop me downtown. "What's downtown?" she said. "I'm hanging out with Sydney." "And Tyler?" "Yeah, and Tyler." "Okay, sure. Just remember you've got school tomorrow." She pointed at my face. "You look great, though." We got in the truck and wound through the shallows, the sky in stagnant gray twilight. A boy in a skeleton onesie tore through humps of dead leaves on his bike. The neighbors lit their jack-o'-lanterns and flipped on strobes behind their windows. A flash of woods and wasps and long, scaly strings slipped between me and the world, but I shook it away. Amir. I told Mom I was meeting up with Tyler. "You weren't getting into trouble, right?" she said. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean. I'm not stupid. When I was at your age, I was lighting cabbages on folks' doorsteps." "You light cabbages on people's doorsteps?" "And whatever you kids do now, I'm sure it's worse. So take your sister with you." "What? Why?" "To keep you honest." But the truth was that Tasha didn't really have any friends to go out with. "Whatever. This sucks." We got outside and I told Tasha I'd ruin her life if she told Mom anything. "Like what?" she said. "Like anything. Just say we hung out and it was cool." "I didn't even want to come out anyway." "Then why the hell did you dress up?" She didn't say anything. "Want to see something funny?" I said. I took out my phone, looked up a video of a guy jumping in front of a subway train. She leaned in and I hit play, and her face slowly twisted into something different. She turned away and whispered, "Fuck you." Lou. Halloween had 14 suicides. Matthew Schaefer, Thomas Kwan, Nathan Trejo, Natalie Packer, and Sammy Barker hanged themselves from their apartment windows downtown. Travis Hartnett threw himself over the Lily Williams Bridge. Colby Walt walked into traffic. Jeff Eckert set his house ablaze, burning himself, his girlfriend, their baby, and their cats alive. Michelle Lamb's note read, "I'm so far away." John Foster's read, learning to surf." Henry Adler's, "I can't." Marco Allen, Pauline Smells, and Zachariah Swimmerman each shot themselves through the throat and left nothing behind. Downstairs, Mom and Dad handed candy to children dressed in sheets, bones, and pointed hats. Jill. Plump, gunmetal Dobson flies swarmed the lights of Getty Mart pumps. Sydney sucked on a slushie, leaning on the shop's plate glass, dressed in dark green coveralls, her face painted black and white like a clown's. I prayed she had cigarettes. "Be home by 12, okay?" Mom said. Sydney skipped up to the car, her hair bobbing in tight, arbitrary braids. "Hey, Miss T?" "Hi, Sydney. You make sure she's back before 12. "Can do." She winked at me. "You look great." "Bye, Mom." I slammed the door shut. "Nah, you look great." I asked what Kennedy was doing tonight. She made a face. "She's with Bob." "Where's Tyler?" "He's meeting us later. I hadn't heard from him all day. Maybe we can swing by his place." "Sure, whatever." She pulled a bottle of Dr. Pepper out of her pocket and handed it to me. "It's got vodka. Is Amir coming too?" I took a swig, tried not to gag, and handed it back. "I don't know." "Wait, is that him?" She pointed across the street. Amir stood, just dressed as himself, with his sister by his side, wearing a fake corset and a cheap witch's hat. Maybe Tyler was around too. We ran across the street. He caught a look at us, then pretended like he didn't, but we were already right on top of him. I introduced Sydney. Amir just said, "Yo." "I'm Tasha," Amir's sister said. "I like your makeup." "Thanks," Sydney said. She smiled at Amir. "What are you supposed to be?" "A fucking asshole." "Don't be a dick," Tasha said. Amir slapped the hat off her head. "It's Halloween. I can be whatever I want. Where's Tyler?" "We thought he was with you." "Nah. I'll text him again." Amir took out his phone and started tapping on it. I'll do it. Tyler got back to me first. "He says we should come over. His mom's gone." "Yeah, I knew that," Amir said. He spat, but his phlegm was too thick, and it slopped down his lip and onto his shoe. We started on over, past the storefronts covered in bat decals, crying children dressed as zombies, bodies hanging from lampposts, stuffed with hay or something else. The vodka twisted in my stomach, and the air was moist and pungent. Amir. I knocked on the door. I texted him. No answer. Should we just go in? Jill asked. No way. A flash of Tyler's mom's fist wrapped around her pistol. I rang the doorbell. Footsteps thumped from inside. The doorknob twisted open. Tyler's mom stood there in her pajamas and bathrobe, a blear of mascara down each cheek, eyes in shock. She looked right through me. Tyler, she yelled, your friends are here. Tyler's voice called back from inside. Let them in. He's in the living room. She kept her gaze low and off to the side, away from any of us. She stepped aside and we entered. It was like someone had pumped a smoke machine into the living room, gray wisps blooming in stagnant air. Tyler crouched on the couch, 2 half-smoked cigarettes between his knuckles, eyes fixed on the TV, like a lion hunting antelope. The screen showed a woman being sawed in half. His eyes flicked toward us and he smiled. Hey. He picked up the bowl from the table, took a hit, and handed it to us. Yo, how about downstairs? I said, tilting my head at Tasha. Yeah, whatever. We all started heading for the stairs, Tasha following behind. I crouched down to her height and pointed back at the couch. No, you stay up here. Watch the movie. On the screen, a black-faced goblin flossed intestines through his teeth. I know what you're doing, she said. It's not what you think. Don't be shitty. Jill nudged her shoulder into Tasha's. I'm staying up here too. Want to hang with me? I wanted to bat her fat fucking face in. Me, Sydney, and Tyler went down to the basement. Tyler flipped on the light. The walls had been covered in black Sharpie. A mural of V-forms, spirals with other spirals nested inside of them, and curling lines like circulatory systems. The outline of a hand, like the scrawls I'd found on the pizza box lids. Staring at it was like looking in a strobe for too long, or pressing a needle into your tear duct. That's cool, Sydney said. What is it? He stood before the wall and circled a region with his index finger. This means time is out of phase, not necessarily in a major way, just off course, and like you can't see it because you're inside it. Then he pointed to 3 perfect spirals, barred by arched parallel lines. These are the snakes in the woods and grass. They sleep in the earth and wait to come up. He smiled, rocking gently on his soles, as if he just told the joke. That's what we see when we sleep. Sydney leaned into my side and put her head on my shoulder. Tyler dragged his fingers up the wall to the tracing of a hand, surrounded by 8 circles. This is my hand. He pressed his palm into it, while his other clenched in a fist and shook at his side. We sat down on the couch. Tasha coughed hard. She reached into her bag and pulled out her inhaler. Oh shit, are you okay? Jill said. Yeah, whatever. Do you want to go outside? I stubbed out my cigarette and waved my hand. The smoke curled into spirals and whirls. Doesn't matter. She puffed on the inhaler and looked away from me. I put my hand over hers and smiled. Let's go. As we got outside, 3 little boys dressed like cops climbed the walkway toward the door. Got any candy? The first one shouted. The other 2 parroted him. Yeah, got any candy? Got any candy? I said we didn't. Ah, buzz off, you broad, the first boy said. The 2 other followed. Yeah, you dingy broad. They walked back down the sidewalk. We sat on the steps and looked at our knees and shoes. Can I ask you something? Tasha said. Sure. Why are you friends with my brother? Well, I'm Tyler's girlfriend, and Amir is Tyler's best friend. Yeah, okay. Her tone made me nauseous. What do you like to do for fun? I asked. Before she could answer, something scraped and rustled by the side of the house. A humped silhouette rounded the corner, leaning into the siding. Tyler's mom, hunched over, tipping a large red jug, a gas container, over the grass and foundation. She looked up and saw us. Oh, she said. She dropped the jug, took her keys out of her robe pocket, power walked across the yard to the garage, got in her car and drove off. I got up and walked over to the canister. The grass was soaked with raw, woozy fumes. We went back inside. Tyler, Amir, and Sydney were back in the living room. On the TV screen, a goblin gnawed at a woman's bloody foot. I told Tyler about his mom, the quiver in her eyes as she wetted the foundation with gasoline. His face emptied out. She just does stuff sometimes, he said. Why don't we go? Don't be stupid. It's fine. We all sat back on the couch and watched the rest of the movie. 13. Jill. I told my parents about Tyler's mom and the gasoline. They said she was probably just watering the plants. No, it was gasoline. I smelled it. It was probably pesticide. There's those horned beetles getting on everything. It wasn't pesticide. Sweetie, how would you ever know? I know what gasoline smells like. I'm worried. I don't think Tyler's safe there. Well, he's not staying here, Dad said. That's all there is to it. For the next few weeks, I'd text Tyler first thing in the morning. He never got back right away. Sometimes he'd be there at our birches. Sometimes I wouldn't see him until lunch. At night, I dreamed of his body, drowned in pale blue flames, flailing and fluttering to ash. My guts ached, filled with tiny, stress-stirred breaches, ulcers. I was taking between 3 to 6 Ativans a day. Mom and Dad let me bring him to Thanksgiving, a sort of consolation. He arrived 2 hours late, in dirty jeans and a stained white t-shirt. I was going to say something, but he just waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about it." Just before dinner, Ashley pulled me into the bathroom, closing the door behind us and sticking her face real close to mine. "Is he a junkie?" "What?" I said, even though I knew exactly what she meant. "Is your boyfriend a junkie?" "He's switching meds," I lied. "And you know his name." "His name is really bad fucking news." "Don't do this. Just because we're white trash doesn't mean we can't have standards. Just saying." "Stop." I pushed past her and through the door and down the hall, wiping my face, hoping nothing was too obvious. Uncle Paulie had Tyler cornered in the living room. "So I hear you're a musician." "No." Tyler pouted down at his shoes. "Really? I swear Jill said you played." "I hate music." He looked up at me, bullets practically coming out of his face. Dad's voice. Okay. Metal tinging on glass. "You hungry or what?" 2 card tables were set up in the kitchen and dressed with the plastic tablecloth. 3 different cranberry sauces, rolls, salad, sweet potatoes, and mashed potatoes circled a 13-pound turkey. We all sat down. I squeezed Tyler's hand beneath the table. No reaction. His skin hanging off his face like a carcass. "Tyler," Dad handed him a carving knife. "Mind giving me a hand with the bird?" He gave me a slight, maybe annoyed smile, throwing me a line. Tyler took the knife by the hilt and held it up to his face. His eyes went out like candles. He began to hum and lowered the blade to his arm, tracing a wet and red bracelet around his wrist. The room inhaled deep. Oh God. Aunt Millicent put her knuckles to her mouth. Tyler thrust his wrist out over the table and trickled his blood over the turkey and mashed potatoes. Bright red dots on the orange, beige, and white, like ladybugs smushed flat. Uncle Paulie and Dallas rushed him from the side, grabbing his arm and wrestling away the knife. That was a milestone, a shift, a symbol that would mark each event that was to come. Before, there had always been an opportunity to go a different path, one in which myself and my family would remain intact. I just couldn't see it then. Now, for a brief inhalation, I could feel deep in my belly the future, and it was a chain dragging me to the bottom of the ocean. "Out," Dad said. Tyler just stared at him, limp in Paulie and Dallas's grip. "Get him out of my house." They pushed him out into the damp night, throwing his coat into the yard. I grabbed a dish rag from the kitchen and went out the side door so no one would see. Tyler swayed on his feet at the foot of the yard. I ran to him and broke down. "Why?" He didn't say anything. He lifted his hand. His index finger pointed to the sky, the ring of blood dribbling and clotting on his skin. I took his arm and wrapped his wrist in a dishcloth. "Why?" Still nothing in his face. He stared through me like I wasn't even there. "Jill," Dad yelled from the door. "Get in here. Now." Tyler turned away, headed down the blackened street. I clutched at my stomach, feeling the ulcers widen, and walked back to the house. Lou. Thanksgiving was okay. Uncle Joel and Aunt Mari came up from New Jersey with Grandpa and Grandma. I never had much to say to them, but Mom and Dad said they liked seeing me. It was just lukewarm and gray. I don't really like Thanksgiving food, but the mashed potatoes were good enough. Amir. We went to Uncle Donnie and Aunt Mira's place over in Keene. Mira was the weird but cool white lady who taught dance over at the state college. Sometimes she'd pull me aside and ask me what I'd been listening to. I'd go through my phone and play her some of the mellower tracks I liked, and she'd get real into them, bobbing her head and moving a little. It'll be real sad when she dies. I don't know if it's the kids getting worse or me getting worse. Donnie rolled a cut of turkey in his mashed potatoes and gravies. He taught English at the university. They aren't worse. Mira leaned over her shoulder into his. They're just different. The way they parse information is completely different from how we came up. That may be true, but it doesn't answer my question. The kids could be fine and I could still be getting worse. You're just different too. You've always been real different, Donnie, Mom said. We all laughed. She was a little drunk. Seriously, though, last semester I had 3 kids tell me they'd never read a single book. Not one. I'm sure you could find some folks our age who would say the same, Mira said. Or probably they were just messing with you, Mom said. We all laughed again. There was a warmth in there that didn't exist at home. Maybe not in all of Kinsfield. Through my grin and clenched teeth, deep in my frame, I was bawling. Donnie and Mira's unity and resolve were reminders that Mom, Tasha, and me had once been 4. A father that had long left and could never come back, forever undone. All that remained were photos, and his nose, eyes, and cheekbones chiseled into my face. There was a noise, the sound of a door unlocking and opening. Footsteps. The hell is that? Donnie stood out on his chair. A smiling mouth and big brown eyes leaned through the doorway. A young man's face. Surprise, the face said. You're shitting me. Donnie grinned big. It was their son Marcus. Marcus was a few years older than me, and I'd been in school out west before dropping out to work at a startup or something. He came in and gave everyone a hug. Me last. What's up, homie? Same old. How's Washington? Beautiful. It's like New Hampshire, but more so. That sounds awful. He laughed and rubbed my head. Nah, man. I'm just not explaining it right. He was right at the center of attention the rest of the night, and I know that weirded him out a little, but it was nice, with everyone laughing and relaxed. It was the first time I'd felt good in a while. Marcus volunteered his old bedroom to Tasha and Mom, saying me and him could take the living room. Let me just grab a few things. He came back and pulled me aside. So what's the green situation? I smiled. I had a little nug wrapped in cellophane. He smiled back and said I was a lifesaver. He pulled his bowl out of his pocket, and we went outside. So what does your company do? I asked. It's not interesting. How are you, though, man? Are you still making music? I don't know. A little, I guess. Can I hear it sometime? Yeah, maybe. I lied. Someday I'll wake up and it'll be like my life's already over, because it'll be dozens of years from now already, and I'm still the same. Sets of mirrors facing each other, expanding space and me in every moment I've been here. Nobody knows me, because I haven't left anything for them, and I can't stand to look half of them in the eye. Jill. Dad tried like hell to separate the bloodied food from the clean, but aside from some yams, it was all tainted. He tossed it in the trash and called Chinese delivery. Nobody complained, but there wasn't much laughter the rest of the night. After everyone had left or gone to bed, he pulled me aside. You're never seeing him again, you understand? I'm so sorry. It's just not tonight. He's not good. It's not just tonight. He's no good. I don't like what he's doing to you. Daddy, no. He grabbed me hard by the shoulders. It's not a debate. You aren't seeing him again. Period. Daddy, am I understood? I nodded, face scrunched up all ugly. Go to bed. He released me, and I ran to my room, away from him. I screamed into my pillow until I fell weak into terrible dreams. Lou. It's darker than night, or closets in your eyeballs. Or closing your eyeballs. Too dark to see. I try walking. It's like through water. I stop, my inside swimming blue-brown but lukewarm. Either my eyes adjust or something begins to glow, like a dull lantern, giving dimension to the space. The dark retreats into a churning blur. The space opens up to colors of wood and leaves, folds of dirty gray, shapes like trees and bushes and piles of leaves. The way the world looks when you're crying. I try walking again, like through water. My insides go all the way blue and alone. They appear up ahead. They may have always been here, in front of me. Thin lengths of rope or cable, swaying between the trees, swaying in empty space, strung from nothing. Lengths of rope tied together into a shape like a body, a flexible stick figure, or a primitive circulatory system. A rope man. Its legs and arms curl into blurred dark, its bottom ends brushing inches above shaking earth. I move closer and the rope man drifts away. I move closer and the rope man drifts away. It leads and I follow. It's him. He's thinner than he could ever be, almost flat, like a deflated balloon, a deflated skin. He's a gray-beige tarp, billowing in the wind like a sail. His body slips up through the gusts and up through tree branches and twists like a rag back down to earth. He shakes and makes the branches shiver. She's here too. Her shins kick through an ocean of leaves. Her body is mine. Her face is mine. Her hands and feet and eyes and teeth are mine. She took them from me. Amir. I stroll across asphalt, feeling it hard on my soles until something crushes beneath my shoe and shrieks. I lift my foot. It's a mouse, still shivering and screaming, half flattened into pavement. I try stepping on it again, but it won't die. It just keeps screaming, staring up at me with those black pinhole eyes, its mouth gaping. I nearly cry. I keep stomping, but it won't die. Lou. I walk for hours. The world vibrates, above and beneath me. The rope man floats ahead, gently curling and twisting between the trees. I follow. Something changes. Ahead of us, it's a hill, a torrent from the sky, black water twisting down into a spiral cathedral, its lines crisp and defined. The rope man floats toward it, and I follow. Jill. She trails his drifting, rag-like body across the landscape. I follow them through the woods, between pines and oaks alight in black fire, swollen with papery nests. Pushing through ashy leaves and piles of hair, a blurry shape emerges from the distance and grows larger as we approach, a gray, triangular blob. He drifts toward it and she follows, and they both disappear inside. The gray blob becomes clearer as I get closer. It's like a church or a house, shaking so rapidly it blurs. A black hole in its front. I approach and cross the threshold. The world snaps. Everything smooths to clean definition. I'm in a room. The walls are round. The floor like black plastic. They are here. She watches his body flit up through the air and drift to the floor over and over, like a feather above an electric fan. Someone else is here. My father. My father is a tree, roots pushed deep into the floor. He stretches his branches to the sky in agony. He has no face, but I can see his teeth clench until they break. His body drained rigid. Somewhere outside, his body filled with wasps. It's all there, beneath his bark and inside his rings. I turn away. He is gone, but she's still here. In my body, in my face, in my hands and feet and eyes and teeth. She guides my body, my face, my hands, my feet, my eyes, my teeth, to my father's trunk and lays at the roots. She pulls the strands from the floor, suckling, slurping at my father's sap, taking everything away and replacing me. My father's trunk and branches shiver and shake. His box cutter's in my hand. I click the blade up through the plastic and advance toward her body, with my face, my hands, my feet, my eyes, my teeth. She took them away from me. Lou. The rope man slips through the archway to the cathedral, and I follow into a vast, circular room. The rope man is gone. The room is empty, except for Tyler and Jill. He nails, naked, at a hole opened up in the floorboards, filled with ink-black water. She stands on the other side. Above us, hundreds of bodies hang from the ceiling, packed so tightly I can only see their legs and feet, knobby and swollen like diseased branches. Head bowed over the water, Tyler hums, like frogs, like locusts. He rocks back and forth on his calves. His hum grows louder. His body bucks, his head whipping back and forth, his shoulders before swinging forward and smashing his chin into his chest. His hum grows louder, resonant, a vibrating hum. Sometimes he looks like a person, Sometimes he looks like a pile of rags. He shakes and seizes. Above me, the dangling, swollen legs sway and shake. Jill stands motionless. Tyler's body tremors until it blurs, and blurs until it becomes clear again. Wind howls beyond the walls. Tyler leans forward and reaches his arm into the black water. The water reaches back. He slowly turns his face toward mine and smiles wide. Jill turns her face toward mine and smiles wide. A hand reaches behind me, grabbing my hair, pulling my head back. A cold blade slides across my throat. Amir. Eventually, I just leave the mouse smeared and screaming on the sidewalk, hoping that nobody has seen what I've done. Jill. I clenched awake with the Charlie horse in my heart and my throat. I grasped at my calf and then the side table, reaching my pill bottle, squeezing and twisting off the lid. I swallowed 2 Ativan dry, trying to breathe, and counting down from 100. I took another pill and lay there for like another half hour before finally getting up. Everyone was already up and awake in the living room. Uncle Mervyn and Uncle Roy stared into a game on ESPN. Dad lay back in the armchair by the window, with dark ringed Dracula eyes like he hadn't slept in days. Mom paced in front of everyone, gripping her phone tight to her face. She looked up at me as I stepped out from the hall. Never mind, she's right here. What's going on? It's Lou's mom. He's not home and they don't know where he is. What? They can't find him, and she says you're the only person who'd know. I don't. Unsure at first. I don't. This is serious. Dad barked a wet cough. If you... And another harsh, mucusy cough. He pressed a Kleenex to his mouth, hawked hard and spat into it. If you know something, you need to tell us, now. I don't, I swear. And again, I was uncertain, because maybe I did. Amir. I woke up feeling awful. It must have shown, since Donnie, Marcus, and Mira each individually asked what was wrong. I said it was nothing. We did our goodbyes, and Marcus said that if I was ever out west, I'd have a place to crash. We got back home in time for lunch and ate leftovers. When Mom was out of the room, I told Tasha I was sorry. For what? I don't know. Everything. Whatever. I finished up, messaged Tyler, and headed over to his place. Lou. I woke up, face down on a cold, dusty floor. My breathing shallow but brown-gray, still in my pajamas, no phone, socks but no shoes, a sore throat, mucus clogging my nose and chest, a new space, alien but reminiscent of something freshly uncovered, but already sipping away from my conscious place, a place broken out from inside me into the world myself and the rest of the living had tacitly accepted as being true. I crawled to my knees. The room was dark, except for a pale dawn light slipping through holes in the cone ceiling, dark and large and round, a small dead tree planted in a large metal pot in the center of the room, an old beaten-up saucepan and other objects scattered out before it, a thin gray finger of smoke rising out of the pan toward the ceiling. I got up and went over to the tree. A few embers still burned inside the saucepan, along with other matter, charred bits of white paper and dried plants, a half-burnt yellow bandana covered in the brownish-red crust, teeth, probably from an animal, a chunk of paper wasp nest, Tyler's orange and black box cutter, and a lock of blue hair, like Jill's, lay beside it. Clusters of mushrooms, naughty, purple-gray penises, rose up from between the floorboards, ridging the shrine. I prodded the hair with my finger. I could almost feel Jill in the room with me. I felt the clump in my fist and dipped it into my pocket. I found a trap door with the ladder attached. Undoing the latch, the door fell open, the ladder sliding to the floor below. I climbed down into a room filled with brown filing cabinets, the carpet soggy underfoot, windows boarded up, worlds of mold. I moved past that space into a hallway, hole-filled walls, water-rotted ceilings, a set of stairs. I descended to the next floor and found the front door broken into daylight. Outside, the house was maximum blue and curdled electric. like an ugly drawing of the cathedral from my dream. The rest of the space was skeleton woods, but also street lamps, husks of dead cars, and shells of other broken houses, hundreds of dead mice dotting the ground. I picked an arbitrary direction and started walking. The leaves crackled bony and blue under my socks. I was too cold to cry. I reached a chain-link fence. A dirt road and ridge lay on the other side. I traced it for probably a quarter mile up until I found a slit to the space beyond. I pulled the gap wider and ducked under and through. "Stop," a man's voice. I stopped. I didn't even look to see who it was. "I said stop," the voice said. I shivered in the cold, chattering my teeth. Footsteps approached. A police officer stepped in front of me. His body looked old, but his face was young. "The hell are you doing here?" His right hand wrapped around the gun on his waist. "Trying to get home," I whispered. "What?" "I just want to go home." "What's your name?" "Lou." He took his hand off the gun and pulled the walkie-talkie from his belt. "Jeannie, who did you say that missing kid? Who was that missing kid? Over." The walkie-talkie buzzed and crackled. "Lou Oliver. Over." "'S what I thought. Call off the dogs. I found him. Over." "Need an assist? Over." "Nah, I've got it." "Taking him back now. Over and out." He returned the walkie to his belt. "Now turn around. Keep your hands where I can see them and do exactly as I say." He patted me down, turned my PJ pockets inside out, taking the lock of blue hair, looking at it several seconds before slipping it into his own pocket. Then he made me take off my clothes, and he searched me like that, then made me do something else. When he was done, he said that if I ever told anyone what happened, he'd kill me and my family. He made me get in the car and drove me back to town. Jill. Tyler apologized by text, said he had food poisoning, that he was going back to sleep but could see me tomorrow. He said he loved me, and I told him I'd loved him, too. I didn't tell him what Dad had said. I took another Ativan. I texted Lou over and over, even tried calling. Nothing. I took another Ativan. The space around me flattened out, and my body with it, like a piece of plastic carried by the wind. My mouth turned dry and sandy. Mom fixed me peppermint tea and put together a plate of my favorite leftovers, but I wasn't hungry. Dad did the best he could, saying, "I'm sorry, sweetie," between retches of thick gray and black phlegm. He told Mom it felt like he got plowed in the chest with a hydraulic press. I took another Ativan. Amir. Tyler looked like he hadn't slept in days. His mom was out of town with family, so me and him just got real fucked up. We raided her med stash. Tyler pointed to the Valium and Oxy and said, "Don't mix those." He dragged his finger beneath his neck. Kirk. He pinched up some Whirl and stuffed it in his cheek. He watched a weird anime about a ghost born from electromagnetic fields that manipulate high schoolers into doing its bidding. At the end of each episode, another student would go crazy and end up killing themselves or someone else. The colors, like burning photographs, made me want to live in that world forever. We made out and jerked each other off. Bits of leaves trickled from his mouth to mine, and when I pulled back, a thin black string connected our lips. Tiny faint strands whirled from the tip of his cock to mine. We slept right there on the couch, in each other's arms, and I dreamed of thin black string. Lou. Mom picked me up at the police station, a crimson stovetop face and full of knives. All she could say was how disappointed she was. We got home and Dad said the same thing. They made me watch as they pulled apart my bed, dresser, and closet looking for drugs. They had already taken away my phone and laptop and told me I could never see Jill again. I never really knew whether my parents loved me or not. I guess I knew later, but those first 17 years only ever felt like tolerance. They knew I was their fault, and because their God ordered them to love me, they held back their knives. But I knew the stories of fathers who cut their children to pieces, so most often I tried to make them feel like I wasn't there at all, most often failing completely. Jill. Mom came down the hall and tapped on my door before creaking it open. She told me Lou's mom had just called. She said that they'd found her, that she was on drugs, that Lou said she had gotten the drugs from me. She searched my room and threw out my weed, but not my cigarettes. I texted Lou again, but she never responded. I took an Ativan and fell asleep atop my covers.